Stop writing copy that pitches the solution before the reader even admits they have a problem. That is the single most expensive mistake in direct response, and right now, almost every freelancer, agency, and in-house team is making it. By the end of this breakdown, you will know exactly how the Dove Real Beauty framework, the same one that generated $1.5 billion in incremental sales over 20+ years, works at a structural level. We are pulling apart every step, every psychological lever, and every trap most copywriters fall into. Let's get into it. Direct response copywriting is one of the most misunderstood disciplines in marketing. The practitioners who master it don't just write words, they move markets. The framework we are about to dissect has generated billions in sales across every industry, every medium, and every economic climate. It works not because it is clever, but because it respects how people actually make decisions. If you have ever wondered why some ads print money while identical-looking competitors go dark, this is the answer. Dove's Real Beauty campaign is to direct response what the scientific method is to science. A rigorous, testable, scalable system. Let that number land for a moment. The Dove Real Beauty campaign ran for over 20 years and produced $1.5 billion in incremental sales. And here is the part that breaks most marketers' brains. It accomplished that by refusing to sell beauty. It sold self-esteem instead. The product was soap. The purchase decision was identity. That gap between what the company makes and what the customer is actually buying is exactly where this framework lives. And it is the unlock for every campaign that ever felt like magic but was actually math. Every legendary copywriting framework was born in a specific moment when a practitioner had to solve a real problem. Dove's Real Beauty is no different. These frameworks were developed in the era of print advertising, when a single headline and illustration had to stop a reader mid-flip, drag them through 3 paragraphs of body copy, and push them to mail a check or walk into a shop. The constraints were brutal. The competition for attention was zero-sum. If your ad didn't pull, your client went bankrupt. That pressure tested these frameworks into tools of extraordinary precision. Why does the origin matter? Because it tells you what the framework was designed to do, and therefore where it works best. These tools were not built for the comfortable world of brand awareness or vague top-of-funnel fluff. They were built for the moment when attention is scarce, the decision is binary, and the response must be measurable. They survived because they worked at scale across thousands of campaigns in dozens of industries. They did not survive because they were elegant. They survived because they made money, repeatably, for the people brave enough to deploy them. At its heart, the Dove Real Beauty framework does something most marketing refuses to do. It starts with the reader's reality, not the product's features. Every single sentence either serves the reader's journey from problem to solution, or it gets cut. There is no room for ego, no room for cleverness, no room for the brand's internal jargon. This ruthless reader-first discipline is the single biggest reason the campaign worked for 2 decades, while hundreds of competitor beauty brands burned through their budgets on fluff that never converted. Here is the psychological mechanism, and it is brutally simple. People do not make decisions based on logic alone. They make them based on emotion and then justify them with logic afterward. The Dove Real Beauty framework works with that reality rather than against it. It creates an emotional shift first. In the original campaign, that shift was from self-doubt to self-acceptance, and only then gives the reader the rational evidence they need to feel confident in the decision they already want to make. Reverse those 2 steps and the entire architecture collapses. Step 1, and most copywriters skip this entirely, is identifying where your reader actually is. Are they completely unaware of their problem? Aware of the problem but not the solution? Aware of solutions but unsure which one to choose? Each of those 5 awareness stages requires a completely different entry point, a different headline, and a different offer. Most marketing starts way too late. It assumes the reader already wants what you are selling. The Dove framework forces you to start earlier with an honest assessment of where your audience actually sits, not where you wish they were. Step 2, your first few sentences must do one job and one job only. Make the reader feel understood, not impressed, not entertained, understood. When a reader feels that you accurately see their situation, they lower their resistance. Their internal filter, the thing that makes them skip ads and close tabs, quietly disengages. Dove's breakthrough Real Beauty Sketches film opened not with a product, not with science, not with a tagline. It opened with a woman describing herself to a forensic artist, and the reader felt seen before a single bottle appeared on screen. The most common mistake at step 2 is being too clever. Clever copy impresses the writer. Specific copy impresses the reader, every time. That witty headline you are proud of, tested against a plain-spoken version that just describes the reader's pain. The plain one almost always wins because it is frictionless to process. The clever one requires work, and the reader is not on your payroll. Aim for specificity every single time. Name the exact feeling, the exact moment, the exact dollar amount the problem is costing them. That is where the conversion lives. Step 3. Once the reader feels understood, you have their attention, and now you earn the right to escalate. Show them the cost of their current situation, not in abstract terms, but in concrete, personal terms. What is this problem costing them every single day? What will it cost them in a year? In 5 years? In 10? Dove did not just say, feel better about yourself. They showed women editing themselves in every photograph, avoiding mirrors, pulling their shoulders forward. They made the cost of inaction undeniable. That is the move. Make the cost of doing nothing more painful than the cost of buying. This is also where most copywriters pull back way too soon. They worry about alarming the reader. They think sounding urgent will scare people off. Here is the truth. A reader who does not feel the urgency of their problem will never feel the urgency of your solution. The discomfort is not a bug, it is the entire point. You are not alarming them. You are waking them up to something they already knew but had been avoiding. Done correctly, the reader does not feel manipulated. They feel relieved that someone finally said it out loud. Step 4. And only now, do you introduce what you are selling? The key is to position your offer as the bridge between where they are right now and where they want to be. Not as a product with a list of features, not as a service with bullet points, as a clear, specific path from problem to resolution. Dove never led with moisturizers or ingredients or dermatologists. They led with the afterstate, a woman standing taller, looking in the mirror without flinching. The soap was the vehicle. The transformation was the destination. Same blueprint works for SaaS, coaching, supplements, and info products. The more specifically you can paint the afterstate, the more powerful this step becomes. Do not tell people your product is great. Tell them what their Tuesday morning looks like after they have used it. Tell them what they say to their friends. Tell them what they no longer have to worry about. Specificity is the engine of desire. Vague promises produce vague responses. The Dove Real Beauty campaign never said, feel more confident. It showed a woman recognizing her own beauty for the first time. That is, paint by numbers copywriting at the highest level. Step 5, removing friction, is treated as an afterthought by most copywriters, and it is where countless campaigns that did everything else right still fail. Removing friction means anticipating every objection, every hesitation, every reason someone might close the tab instead of converting. Common friction points: price, addressed with value framing rather than apology. Risk, addressed with a rock-solid guarantee. Complexity, addressed with a clear only takes 3 minutes promise. Dove handled this with a low-cost entry product before asking anyone to commit to a full brand relationship. Lower the stakes, then raise them later. Here is what makes this framework so lethal. It is not tied to any single medium. You can deploy it in long-form advertorials, in 2-page megalogs, in 12-part email sequences, in Facebook ad variations, in VSL scripts, on landing pages, even in TikTok hooks. The structure is medium agnostic. Awareness stage, entry point, tension, transformation, friction removal. Run that 5-step sequence through any channel and the conversion math changes. That is why the same framework that worked for Dove in 2004 is what the best direct response teams on the planet are still running in 2026. The critical insight that separates direct response copywriters from brand copywriters is this: brand copy hopes the emotion develops gradually over months of exposure. Direct response copy makes the emotion immediate. It has to. You have one scroll, one click, one open. The Dove Real Beauty campaign is interesting because it blurred that line for 2 decades. It was a brand campaign that acted like direct response, measuring incremental sales lift every quarter. That is why it survived every CMO change. The numbers were unkillable. If you want to write copy that survives a budget review, write copy that produces numbers. Now here is the part most people did not see coming. Advertorial Wizard applies this entire 5-step Dove Real Beauty framework automatically. You feed it your product, your offer, your audience, and within minutes it generates complete advertorial copy. Awareness stage matched headlines, reader-specific entry points, tension built around the actual cost of inaction, transformation copy, and objection handling, friction removal. The framework that took decades of testing and billions of dollars in media spend to validate is now a few clicks away. It is the cheat code built on the cheat code.